Put the microphone on. Governor LePage, welcome.
Thank you. Senator Tuttle, Representative McKinney, and members of the Veterans Legal Affairs Committee. I like your style. We can raise some money with all these fines.
Yeah, refer Governor.
We are all here today to address a vitally important matter for the state of Maine's future. On January 15th, I announced a plan, emergency legislation, that pays nearly $500 million in unpaid bills to 39 Maine hospitals. Maine needs serious welfare reform so we can pay for the quality safety net for most of our needy. But that does not change the fact that the state owes $484 million to Maine's hospitals that date back to 2009. Paying this debt is the right thing to do. It will place Maine in better financial standing and enable our state to invest in bonds for hundreds of projects across our state. I recently discovered that Maine's earnings are the lowest in New England. This income is a critical measurement of economic prosperity and demonstrates how Maine's economy is doing. Maine is struggling. Right now, Maine deserves someone to push this jobs bill and get our hospitals paid. Our plan before you will create jobs in the healthcare industry and in the construction industries. I have letters from nearly every hospital in the state of Maine with the same message that's being echoed. Hospitals have been forced to lay off employees and keep positions vacant. Hospitals have been forced to deplete savings, and some are relying on lines of credits to stay open. Hospitals have delayed payment to local vendors, impacting the financial status of hundreds of small businesses in local communities. The hospital debt has delayed construction projects, which create hundreds of critically important construction jobs for Maine's economy. I have a plan that will pay back the hospitals, make the state's liquor business more competitive in New Hampshire, and release millions to pay clean water, transportation projects, and starting to save money in our rainy day. Under my plan, nearly $700 million would surge into the Maine economy as early as this spring. I'm not a fan of political games or unethical tactics used to derail this plan, which benefits not only the hospital employees, but the construction industry and Maine's consumers, businesses, and retailers. So yes, I am very frustrated. And I'm very passionate for the future of this state. I know firsthand how tough it is to go without a job, how scary it is to be without a safety net, and how chilling it is when the bills pile up and you don't pay. At home, if we don't pay our bills, we face the debt collector. I don't want any Mainers to have to suffer like that, and I don't want our state to operate like that. I've dedicated my life for improving the private sector businesses, and I spent years helping my fellow Mainers through public service. Many of you have done the same. I consider public service one of the highest callings. If we are going to be a prosperous state and make it affordable and efficient for everyone, if we are going to manage our finances responsibly and run our state like a business so we can help our fellow customers, our fellow Mainers, then we must make the tough choices. We must make the right decisions and we must pay our bills. We cannot play politics with people's lives. We cannot wait any longer. We need to pay our bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor LePage.
Now, I wasn't aware that the 25 copies weren't up here, but they'll be right up.
All right, thank
We'll send it
you.
up.
Before Governor LePage, we would thank you for your testimony. It's a great honor to have you here.
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thank you, Paul. Senator Patrick.
Thank you very much, Chair Tuttle. Thank you very much, Governor. I actually had about dozens and dozens of questions, but we do realize that you have a lot of people behind you that will be able to answer an awful lot of questions, so I'll boil it down to 3 quick questions.
Sure.
In just prefacing, I am thankful that 2 bills at least came forward to look at this issue, because I think it's important, having been here when the state controlled liquor years ago and when we had the first contract. So I'm glad we're looking at moving forward with this issue. Your bill lays out that the state may go to bid for a contract. Under what conditions would the state decide to put a contract out to bid?
Well, let's put it this way. I am very much interested in going back out with a contract because the contract was signed 10 years ago, so it's an abomination to the state. It's a tragedy to the state. We left too much money on the table. And quite frankly, I'd be more than happy to buy that contract and retire and go away because it is very lucrative for the contract holder. I believe we need to put a contract out in an RFP out that puts a lot more money into the coffers of the state and less money out in the private sector. Because the private sector on this particular contract, I looked at this contract as a fire sale. And frankly, you never call Martin's.
And I should have bought it when I saw it at mine. But what part of the operations would the state put out to bid?
The state put out the management, the logistics, the delivery, everything except counting the money.
Mr. Chairman.
One more.
Actually, this was a 3-part first question. I wanted to find out.
Okay.
And what will be the process for selecting a bidder?
We'd go out in RFP.
And the second question with this one question is, there have been constitutional issues raised with your plan, and we understand that you're working with the AG's office to redraft these parts. What are the expected changes to the bill?
Well, frankly, I believe that there is no constitutional issue, and I'm willing to ask the law court to weigh in on it. It's always been my plan that if there is a constitutional challenge, I have no problems in going to the Supreme Court of Maine to ask them for their judgment. We've had it looked at internally, externally, by many attorneys, and I feel very, very strong that our position is correct.
And the last easy question, Mr. Chair, is under your plan, when will the state pay back the hospital?
I think that if you send me the bill around my pen, I would sign it, and I think in 45 days we could have the money in the hands of the hospitals, in addition to the other $100 million that has been approved and ready for sale.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor, for your testimony.
Anyone else?
Yes. Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Governor, for being here today. My question for you is about the state's bond rating. Do you think that us not paying our debts would affect the state's bond rating?
I am very concerned, and frankly, the reason the bonds that have been approved and not sold is because of some discussions that went on with the rating agencies, with their concern of us continuing to take on new debt without paying our bills. And I'm very fearful that we could take a hit on our bond rating. And frankly, I used to think that had we paid the hospitals 2 years ago, I would have been very, very comfortable to tell you that we were not going to lose our bond rating. But at this point, with all that's been said and done and all the jockeying that's going around, and too many people speaking about not paying our bills, I'm very, very fearful.
Thank you.
Are there there any other questions at this time? The Governor, seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Before we go to the next presenter, I would like to have the committee introduce themselves, starting with Representative Kinney.